My name is Landis Wiedner. I am an epilepsy journalist. I'm also the editor for the website Living Well with Epilepsy, where people share their stories. I consider myself an epilepsy newbie because I've only had it for 5 years, so I'm still learning, and which is why I'm very excited to be moderating this honest conversation with these two wonderful, amazing women and epilepsy advocates. Before we get started, I just want to go over kind of what the Steps Towards Zero movement is. The movement's really about empowering people with epilepsy to rethink, reassess, think about what your goals are, and kind of create an ownership around your own epilepsy management, and look at it hopefully in a way for empowerment. And when you talk about Steps Towards Zero seizures, it's a little complicated because 1 out of every 3 people who have epilepsy and are on medication still have seizures. I am one of those people. I am, as of today, 2 weeks seizure free. Very pumped about that. Oh, thank you. Keep it that way. So, you know, for me, 0 seizures looks different than it might for someone who goes an hour without a seizure, or maybe for someone who goes a month without a seizure, or someone who goes a day or a year. It's all very individual because, as a lot of us know, epilepsy is very individual. And it changes from person to person, which means Steps Towards Zero seizures is also different from person to person. And so I'm going to be talking and asking these wonderful women about their epilepsy journeys and their experiences with Steps Towards Zero. We have Kenzie O'Connell, who's a professional golfer. We also have Natalie Beavers, who is the founder of the nonprofit Angels of Epilepsy. Okay, so I want to start off by talking about the Steps Towards Zero movement, which launched last year, which you two have been involved with from the get-go. Yeah. And so kind of just exploring the concept of how your understanding of 0 seizures, how that has evolved for you, or how that has changed from your diagnosis to today, or just kind of that evolution of like 0 seizures as you personally.
Well, actually, you know, being diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 5, becoming, you know, it's been a lot of challenges throughout my life living with epilepsy. Again, you know, I was in elementary school. Many children, you know, battling with epilepsy, and that was back in 1982. So many people battling with epilepsy at that time. There was not a lot of educational information and so forth at that particular time, but it was quite difficult for my parents, and that was quite hard for them. But growing up, I became seizure free going into high school, and the doctors at that time, you know, I was taking off of medication. We thought everything was okay. But my seizures reoccurred as my freshman year in college. So we really kind of figured out that there's not an actual cure, you know, for epilepsy. Living with epilepsy, it empowers me as well, and it also empowers the many people around me, you know, as well as my family. As well as my siblings, you know, as well. But it's also a learning lesson. Even living with epilepsy for 40 years, I'm still learning, you know, the format. I'm still learning different things. Also interacting with doctors a lot more, you know, compared to when I was, you know, a smaller kid.
Oddly enough, that, again, since I'm only 5 years in, that makes me feel better somehow. You know, that you're also still learning, because this is, I never knew what a learning curve was involved in this whole thing. Yeah. So the fact that, you know, this has been your entire life for the most part, and you're still open, and I think that says a lot about you too, is that you're just so open to learning, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Kenzie, what about you? What is, you know, how is 0 seizures, that concept changed from diagnosis, or how has it evolved? What's that journey been like?
So I was diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 21, and I knew nothing about epilepsy. When when I was 21 and I was diagnosed, I thought immediately I had a brain tumor. I went straight to the worst possible scenario there ever was, and I never thought that there would be a zero seizure or steps towards zero seizure scenario for me. I was having 6 to 7 seizures a day. Golf was on the back burner for me. I just wanted to get better and try and live a normal life after that because I wasn't being able to really process or function too much at the time. And like you said, I think zero seizures are different for everybody, right? I mean, having a day without a seizure or having a month without a seizure, an hour or anything like that. So I think, if I can go 4 months, that's zero seizures for me right now. Mm-hmm. But like you said, it's different for every single person that has epilepsy. And whatever your goal is, I think, sky's the limit, but also, be excited about whatever can happen for you, because I think positivity with this stuff is, I always say that's what kept me going, is just staying positive with it, because this can be very hard every single day, and it's okay to be sad or upset with it, because it is upsetting, and it's okay to be sad. It is a sad thing every once in a while, but staying positive, because it affects your brain, is, I think, the one thing that really helped me the most to get through those really, really hard times. Being accepting of the fact that I can't drive, and my ability to go places is not great, and go get my nails done, I have to have my husband take me. It's like, that independence isn't there sometimes, but it is, being able to accept it is, I think, that first step, and it took me a while to get there. But I think that's another part of having steps towards zero, right, is accepting that you do have epilepsy, and being able to talk about it. I think that's a big thing too, is I didn't ever want anybody to know for the longest time, and not being ashamed of it. I think not making it the only thing that's a part of you, but also having it still be a part of you. It's not your identity, but it's also still something that is part of you, and being okay with that. And I think that's really important too, because it's okay to say, hey, look, I can't do this because I have epilepsy.
I just kept trying to be like, okay, I'm just trying to get back to what I used to be able to do, not realizing that I needed to move forward in this different mode.
Right. It's something that I think everyone can learn from, that you can't just go, I'm cured, because it's not gone. It's still there, but as long as we keep doing that, steps towards zero, keep pushing forward and getting to that goal.
I just want to talk to you both about what your support systems look like, or what they have looked like over the years, especially, Natalie, for you, because I imagine there's just quite an evolution there, as to what it looked like when you were 5 and to what it looks like now. And so I'm just very curious as to, who are the people throughout your journey?
Yeah, definitely my parents and my family. I appreciate them so much. And again, it was a lot for them, again, back in the 80s. It was a lot for them that they had to learn. But when you have your family to come involved to learn about epilepsy, to structure them into what epilepsy is about. Also, too, I appreciate my families, as well as the community, my friends and classmates. They had to also learn about epilepsy as well. They didn't know about seizures. They were afraid. And again, growing up in the early 80s, it's a lot different compared to now. So my family had to come involved to say, let's help the community. Let's go to the school and actually advise them, this is what you guys can do to help Natalie if she has a seizure. So I just really, really greatly appreciate them so much. And even when they see me today, they say, hey, I still know about seizures. I remember helping you. And now with, the Epilepsy Foundation, with SK Life Science, and the Steps Towards Zero, they have information about seizure first aid. So it's all right there on the internet now, so people can actually see about, epilepsy, seizure first aid. Those people around you, like your friends, like your coworkers, and who may not know that you have epilepsy or seizures, talk to them about it. Build that support structure. Let them know, hey, I do have epilepsy. Do you know about it? Let me tell you about seizures. Here's some first aid seizure tips. You can go to stepstowardszero.com or epilepsy.com, and here's some information that you can know about it. And if you see me have a seizure, here's what you can do to help me. So it's always good to let other people know about your life with epilepsy.
When I first was diagnosed, it was definitely put on the back burner with everything. It really wasn't my first priority by all means. Golf was really my outlet with everything. It was my escape, always has been my escape from everything. It's kind of like my escape from reality. And I would recommend anybody to have an escape because, if you can and you are able to, find that safety net of some kind to just get out of your head with all of this, because it is something that kind of can consume you in a way.
Okay, so now I kind of want to switch into, we've talked a lot about our personal lives, and then like in our personal care at home and with our family and friends, but then there's the other side where it's like the medical team is also another part of the support, right? So I'm just curious as to what question or background information do you wish you had known, like from the get-go, or a question you wish you had known to ask your doctor, or background info you wish they had given you?
Because what my father told me, he said, when I was diagnosed, they were like, we found this scar on her left temporal lobe. We have to diagnose her with epilepsy. Here's a brochure. We will have her on this medication. Yes, she would have to come and see the neurologist. But that was pretty much it. And they didn't get a lot of information. Also, too, I am grateful that there are organizations that are present, like Epilepsy Foundation,
Totally.
SK Life Science, Steps Towards Zero, that can help people related to epilepsy and this particular disability, and give them information. Also too, social media is a great outlet for people in the epilepsy community to connect.
Totally.
All you have to do is just put #epilepsy and find so many people in the epilepsy community.
100%.
So I think that's a great resource, just to connect with those.
It's funny you say that, because after I have a seizure, that I feel very isolated and very alone, and I will do that. I'll go on Twitter and just do #epilepsy, #seizure, and it's not that I'm looking to engage, because my brain's like, you don't know how to engage right now, you're kaput. So, but it's just to see other people, and then all of a sudden you just don't feel as alone and as isolated, and it can be anything like, I just had a seizure, this sucks, or I just went 5 weeks seizure free, and all of a sudden you just see these things and you're like, okay, yes, there is a community.
You're not the only one out there.
I'm not, you're all of a sudden you feel a little bit less alone by connecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Listen to your neurologist, ask questions, push on those questions, because just because they work on the brain doesn't mean that they answer all those questions right up front. I didn't ask any questions. I just trusted everything that they told me. And that's not the case. I started asking some questions. I started doing some research on my own, and I asked my neurologist a question about something he didn't even ever hear about. He never even heard about it. He had to bring somebody else in for a second opinion. Those are things that sometimes they don't even know. The brain is like the ocean. We are still learning about it every day. And everyone's brain, I say this all the time, I'm sure SK and everybody is really tired of me saying this, but your brain is like a snowflake, right? Everyone's brain is your own individual, no brain is the same. every brain is different. And so everyone is going through something that could be entirely different to every single person in this room. So ask questions, push the envelope. Don't be afraid to push on a neurologist, because you don't know. You could be discovering something that no one has ever even seen before. And so don't be afraid to ask the question.
So what do the conversations with your doctors look like? Like Kenzie, like what does that look like? Especially like with, all of the goals that you have. And
Yeah, I think now they're a lot more simplistic. I'm not asking as many, just because I feel like I'm at a better place in my position or my life right now.
Sure.
Now it's just more about like, when can I drive?
Yeah.
When am I able to get behind a wheel? But
Yeah, like next steps.
like we said before at the very beginning, everyone's steps towards zero is definitely different. And I think everyone should applaud themselves for whatever your goal is. And I think it's great to set goals, no matter what it is. If it's in life, if it's in your seizure goal, like whatever your goal is, definitely set one, because it just keeps you positive. It keeps you pushing forward. And I always think it's so important to set a goal and talk with your neurologist about the goal that you're setting, because he needs to be on that same page with you too, right?
When I go to the doctor, it seems as if they have a look on their face like, uh-oh, here comes Natalie. What does she has to say now? Because I hand them my seizure. I say, here you go. You want to see what I have? Descriptions, the date, the time of the seizure. Here you go. Questions and concerns. You ready to talk? So I talk to them. I let them know everything. I have questions. I have concerns. What do you think? It's about communication with your doctors. Mm-hmm. If they do not know about you and how you feel, and along with your journey with epilepsy, or what is it that you want to do, talk to them about it. And communicate with them as if they're your brother or your sister or your aunt or your uncle. That will work out just fine, and I've noticed that. And I literally have a great relationship with my doctors because of that. So that's something, what Kenzie was talking about. It is very, very important when it comes to that.
So how your goals, like epilepsy goals, have evolved or changed, or where they are now?
Yes, I did start Angels of Epilepsy, Charity and Advocacy 14 years ago.
That's amazing, yeah.
And I became an advocate about 11 years ago. And once I started, advocacy, it's like a passion for me now. I'm not ashamed to talk about my story. I'm not ashamed to talk about the experiences that I've had over the past 40 years. I've gone through so much dealing with my life with epilepsy, ups and downs, people not wanting to be friends with me, or relationships, or again, a car accident, brain surgeries, just all kinds of things. I'm not afraid to talk about it, because guess what? There are so many people that have similar stories as yourself.
I think staying positive, getting in your own right mind and your right headspace is something that really you can only do.
Sometimes it's hard to find the thing to do, because you can't even get out to golf. Sometimes you're like,
Right.
you're like, what can I do on my couch that'll bring me joy? Because that's where you're stuck. And I think even I colored a lot. I see people are nodding their heads. They're like, yes, I feel you, girl. Okay, so yeah, there's all, and like even finding peace in small things like that. And I think almost having like I have it all written down like as my own personal toolkit of like things I can go to when I need something like that. But also, I think too, finding people who also have epilepsy and connecting with them, for me, has been the most powerful thing. When I'm gonna start crying, here we go, let's just waterworks show. When I first met a woman who had also been diagnosed as an adult, I literally burst into tears. upon just seeing her. And now, you know, some of my best friends have epilepsy and are actually in this audience, and they're the most, but like, and even though we talk about how different epilepsy is, for whatever reason, there's that thread, that commonality that can still connect us because you're with someone else who gets it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as much as, you know, and for me, my support system is in Chicago, is my friends back at home in Chicago. They are amazing, they are wonderful, I love them to death, but they don't get it. They know they don't get it. It is amazing when you do connect with people, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, or any of those things, you know, you can create that community for yourself. And I have met people through that as well. And so that's why, you know, we also wanted to gently encourage, there's no pressure here, but if you are looking for that community, we do have the hashtag Steps Towards Zero to again create that community and connection to other people. And so that's just something that we are, you know, also want to let you know is available as a way to connect. StepsTowardsZero.com has a lot. Obviously, epilepsy.com has a lot. And there's also the 24/7 Epilepsy Foundation helpline. And that number is 1-800-332-1000, or you can go to epilepsy.com/helpline. So just so you know that there are resources, there are people, and that people do want to help and they do want to connect for those moments when you feel alone or tired or like you just need someone who gets it.